Ooh, did I mess this one up? I tried to start a nice new city in Cities Skylines too. I really did. It just seems like no matter what I do, this part of town is always underwater. But how did we get here? A lot of people had asked me when I was going to start a new series, but I wanted to wait until we could get some better maps because the base game maps are just awful and annoying to build on. Sadly, the editor still isn't ready. So I downloaded a mod to unlock the unfinished editor and spent quite a long time making a modified version of Mountain Village. I totally redid the river and flattened out the starting square and made a large body of water in the middle of the map with a few islands. The map editor in its current state is tedious, but I wanted to make something custom and special. Every day, I'd spend hours just perfecting this map. But the water tools, they're complicated. Every time I thought I had a good elevation on the shorelines and riverbanks, I'd have to go back and raise it ever so slightly. I didn't want massive cliffs and canyons on the waterfront, so I needed to get it just right. I found out that the water raises up very slowly, and you can use the dev tools to speed it up, which I did. After countless hours of effort, everything finally seemed settled, and I was ready to start my city on my very own custom map, aptly named Mountain Village Revamped. After filming some of these dramatic, sweeping cinematics, I was ready to work on the layout and really get this thing up and running. But the game had other plans. After running the simulation for a while, I was back to square one. Everything flooded, my shorelines weren't high enough, and the white lines indicating water level weren't actually working in this build of the editor. I thought that after waiting an hour for the water to settle, it would be okay, but no. I went back into the editor and redid everything that was underwater, which included a complete do-over of the highways and rail lines along the river. So I finally got a working map. For this city, I wanted to do something fun and have all of you suggest names for it so that we can vote on the most liked names in the comments before the next episode. So please, help me name this city. While I'm going for a vaguely North American style, I don't really have a specific place in mind as inspiration. Mainly because the existing assets in Cities Skylines 2 sort of have this sense of placelessness. Both North American and European assets don't really feel like they belong anywhere in the real world. So I decided to just play the game and not worry about it. I didn't want everything to be on a perfect grid, so I'm sort of organically following the natural curve of the shoreline of the large lake in the middle of the map, and then further out I'll start to settle into a more traditional grid pattern. Meet Walter. He's just moved to the city of Help Name Me from the UK. He spends much of his day walking around town, trying to get away from the rising waters. He misses Britain so much. Well, everyone else in town is used to this. He is sick of getting his feet wet all the time. He goes online to find a flight home from the nearest major city, but it's a bit pricey. Luckily, he's been using Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of today's video. Walter knows he can use the Surfshark app to change his location on his phone to one of over 100 countries and save a few bucks on that crucial flight back, which gives him some extra cash to pick up some new shoes before leaving town. Surfshark also protects your online privacy and keeps your data safe, blocking ads and malware as well as trackers to ensure a secure web browsing experience. Whether you're like Walter, trying to save a few bucks on flights, or if you're like me and want to keep your personal information private and your PC safe from threats, Surfshark is a great choice. Best of all, Surfshark offers a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. You can get an exclusive holiday deal. Just use my promo code CITIES to get up to 6 additional months free. See the link in the description for this special offer. Although usually I like to spread my industry evenly throughout my city, for now I'm setting it off closer to the main highway, which will in the future likely be upgraded to a full freeway, giving imports and exports easier access to outside connections. The early stages of a city in Cities Skylines 2 are really the most tedious. In the beginning, before you have any milestones unlocked, it's just zoning and roads. Zoning and roads. Zoning and roads. I really don't feel like the standard 2-lane road is appropriate in width for most residential streets, so I typically use it as sort of a minor collector road leading into larger roads, instead opting for the alleys for the smaller local streets. This is mostly an aesthetic choice, but I do feel like it helps me build cities that are a bit more tightly packed together. Now that I've unlocked Tiny Village, I have a few more tools at my disposal, as well as advanced road services, which will also unlock the extended road upgrades mod that I have installed, which I used to convert the waterfront road to have quay walls. In hindsight, this probably contributed a little bit to flooding my shoreline. Now, my citizens needed healthcare, so I placed down the clinic and decided to use this as a small detailing opportunity. I had the dev tools enabled and I used it to extend out some of the surfaces on the asset and fill in the empty spaces as well as add more parking. I also have Algernon's new line tool mod installed, and I used that to add in some bushes. It functions similarly to the line tool mod in Cities 1, but it's still in early phases, so it's not perfect. I wanted to slowly over time increase the density of the few blocks along the shoreline and then build my downtown along the waterfront. So I generally focused row houses and commercial there, while brought lower density into areas further away from the water. I am following a relatively rigid road hierarchy, using the wide 4-lane roads as the main arterials, and then the larger 2-lane roads as collectors into those. This should ensure smoother traffic flow and also make planning transit routes a bit easier once the city levels up enough to unlock trams and buses. Milestone 2 of Small Village, I gained access to education and garbage services, and I needed to decide what exactly to spend my development points on. I made yet another terrible decision. I didn't want to keep polluting my waterways with sewage, so I unlocked the water treatment plant, which immediately killed my budget. It's going to take me quite a while to get into the green. Good thing this game gives you a fuck ton of money every time you hit a milestone. Although I really hate the way the schools look in Cities 2, the only way I'm going to generate enough demand for medium density is to work on my education. I like to place the playground upgrade right away, because every school needs one. Next to the school, I use small roundabouts to make some cul-de-sacs. Although you can't actually place houses on them, they at least add some visual interest. space wasn't suitable for zones, so I made a little path with a garden of sorts. Here's where the line tool mod started to behave funny. It doesn't always place things in the correct intervals yet, and stuff sort of appears and disappears. I'm not sure why this happens, but I'm certain this will get worked out at some point soon. And there's a good chance it's already been fixed by the time you're watching this. With Milestone 2 came medium density zoning. In order to densify my shoreline, I upzoned all of the low residential left in the first few blocks from the water to medium density, alternating between North American and European themes in hopes of bringing some variety to what will eventually be our downtown. Sometimes when you've got tightly packed grids, if you try to zone the entire space at once, you risk buildings facing opposite roads. For this corner, the commercial building kept spawning facing the alleyway. So I had to play a little bit of whack-a-mole to get all three buildings to front the arterial road. In Milestone 3, I used my development points to unlock highways and roundabouts. And I'm also now able to build police, fire, and the first specialized industry, animal pastures. I actually really like the little details they've put into these pastures with all the animals like horses, pigs, and cows, and even chickens. To start building a farming area, I want to use a wide grid of square-shaped farms, in keeping with a North American style. I'd say the closest real-world analog would be some of the valleys in the Colorado Rockies, Idaho, or maybe Central California. Although California is impossible to build in cities too due to the lack of palm trees and so much else. I'm very salty about that, but we'll pretend this is Colorado for now. This does require a bit of planning, as I do want it all to somewhat mirror the main highway and rail line. The circular radius that the game allows does not work for what I'm going for. So I can't quite get the maximum amount of resources out of each field, but that's okay. Over time, I'm going to add in other farm crops nearby, as I've made most of the flat areas of the map fertile land. The goal is to eventually have a city that gradually fades off from a dense urban core to more suburban and rural areas surrounded by farmland. But this is just the beginning. Here's where the problem started to rear its ugly head. I had first noticed it near areas where I'd converted the main road on the waterfront to quay walls and tried rebuilding the roads at one end. I had issues with the game telling me I can't build on water and other general weirdness, so I used the dev tools to enable bypass validation results, which essentially works similar to the anarchy mods in Cities 1. In the end, I just gave up and decided to build this little section of road a bit further inland. I began work on the layout for another set of blocks to begin expanding the city when I noticed it was happening. The water was slowly but surely rushing in. The longer I ran the simulation, the worse it got. People were going about their business like nothing was wrong. But something was very wrong. Buildings started to collapse, and for some reason immediately redevelop. Walter died. I'm honestly not sure why this happened, but obviously, I didn't make my shorelines high enough in the map editor. I'm gonna have to be creative to save this city, but I think it'll give it a nice little story. A town whose identity is defined by an early tragedy in its history. Like all great cities of the past that have dealt with disaster, Chicago with its Great Fire of 1871, Pompeii with its volcanic eruption, San Francisco and the earthquakes of 1906 and 1989. The city of, we still need a name, guys, come on, was born in a flood. I'm excited to keep this series going. I plan to introduce mods as they become available and use the dev tools more to do some detailing. And we're going to fix up all of this flooding in the next episode, so stay tuned. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to check the link in the description for a special deal.